We'll call the meeting to order, basically just to hand it over to Jesper and let him explain the whole process, and we'll go from there.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. I want to be a rock star, huh? Yep. Hello? Can everybody hear me? Yep. Well, thank you, council members, and thank you, City of Sauk Center, and thank you everybody for coming here. What we like to do today is to present Nature Energy and what we do for the farming community and everybody else in the community in our effort of doing green renewable natural gas. I have a presentation that I'd like to go through because that keeps some kind of order, but please do interrupt me if you have any questions. And then Bob and Matt here will support me. I am a Dane. I live in Minnesota now with my family, and therefore it's my funny English. And if you don't understand it, also stop me and we can always repeat. And again, Bob, he knows me by now, so he knows when I say beep, I mean Bob. So, okay, let's go on to it. So Nature Energy, a pioneer in the green transaction of energy. A little short introduction here to, agenda. What is biogas? What is that we're doing? And who are we as a company, Nature Energy? And our business model, and what we're doing here in North America, as well as some examples, 3D renderings. We don't have any plans in the US as we speak, but we had a few people from the city here seeing our plans in Denmark on the latest trip we have. I'm also coming back to that. And then next step in this, in my, as always, humble opinion, very interesting journey that we're hopefully going to go on, all of us. I'm sorry I keep it back to you guys.
It's okay. That's fine.
All right. So, biogas, what is it? It's called RNG, renewable natural gas, and it's absolutely the same as fossil gas or natural gas from the ground. It's the same methane, except that green renewable gas is taken off various organics, being manure, could be food waste, it could be crop facilities, all kinds of organics that we put together in an aerobic digester. So out of the biogas, we have about 60 to 65% methane, and that is absolutely the same as coming up from the ground. And then we have a whole bunch of CO2, about 30 to 32%, and a little bit of extra gases such as sulfur. That's also where the smell is when we have a look at the manure. And all that we're doing in a so-called anaerobic digestion, that's basically it's a lot of bacteria in a sealed tank, but it's no air. That's where these bacteria can work. And we do that with various organics, as you can see here, brewery sprint, permanate, sugar beets, all kinds of stuff with manure. The manure is an excellent main feedstock. That environment of manure, about 70%, gives the bacteria, the bugs, the right way of working, and thereby creating the methane gas, to take off the methane gas of all these organics. And out on the other end, we have a digester, which will be smell-free. We'll also come back to that. So who are we? I'm going to show you a little film here, much easier. And then I'm just going to, one second, please.
The green transition is now. We've already come a long way, and we will go even further. At Nature Energy, we take the waste that nobody really wants and converts it into green biogas and green fertilizer. We send agricultural waste products, biological industrial waste, and your food waste into our facilities, which provide green fertilizer to farmers and green biogas for the energy that our society needs. This is energy that can be used as well as stored, thereby reducing environmentally damaging emissions and benefiting our world as a whole. Biogas isn't just used to heat your home, it can also help transition industry from black to green. Add to this the future possibilities relating to jet fuels and the potential transition of the entire transport industry. In fact, you can already ride on buses fueled by biogas from our gas stations. The use of biogas is steaming ahead, and we will accelerate that development domestically as well as internationally and on a massive scale. Our ambition is to play a pivotal and active role in the green transition of the global energy consumption. We've gone from a small biogas plant in Denmark to many large-scale plants. We have our own state-of-the-art laboratory, and we're also operating plants internationally. We're already world-leading, but we need your help. We need to sort and send biological waste through a biogas plant so that together we can create green value from our biological waste. We are Nature Energy, and our solution is pivotal to the green transition.
Yep, back to the presentation again. So a little bit of history here. I'm not going to walk through all the years that went by, only pointing out that we started in 1979 as a municipality-owned natural gas distribution company. And in 2013, our CEO, Ole Velblom, he's still on board, came on board, and he started this journey with biogas with the first plant there in 2014, and it went up. Another one is 2018, where we bought a company called Exegear. So Nature Energy is a truly develop, build, own, and operate company. We do everything ourselves with the help of a lot of good colleagues and a lot of consultancies. So when you hopefully say yes to us, it's not like we're going to come here and send it off to some third other companies, which happens a lot in this business that we're in here. So we will stay and operate the plants ourselves, which also give the advantage that we have, that we know how to do it. We have a lot of data, we have a lot of knowledge, both process-wise, but also mechanical-wise. In 2022, we opened our office in in St. Paul, 1st of February. Personally, I came here 11th of April last year. I've been here many times before that, though. And in March 2023, we were bought by Shell Oil. We keep our name and our brand name, and Nature Energy is now the RNG platform of Shell Company. Some numbers. So in 22, we produced 7.2 million MMBTU. So people who knows about gas, they will say, that's not a whole lot. No, and it's not a whole lot compared to gas, but it's a whole lot compared when it's renewable natural gas, which makes Nature Energy a main player on the market, so selling the gas is not an issue. Why do I say this? Because sometimes it is. When you make a little amount, you can't really find customers. We have sufficient that we get the big players into game, which means like Microsoft or Facebook. And it's always nice to know that you can get rid of the stuff that you make. We have fairly large international pipeline. Here in the US, we have 8 on a pipeline. We also have some that didn't work. And we also have projects in Canada. Besides from that, France, Holland, and of course in Denmark, where we come from. We have a very large market share in Denmark, which also make us the company that everybody's asking questions and so on, and expect that we, because there's a lot of political in all this as well. So our CEO is going to a lot of these meetings for that stuff. And yeah, plus 400 employees, but as I said, a lot of consultants as well. This is just to show you our growth, not to drill into the numbers. Each color has each plant, and if you look carefully, you can see that some plants are actually also expanding. We do that all the time. The more gas we can make, the more money there is on the whole feed chain here. And here again, the turnover. And at the right, you can see Denmark, and you can probably calculate where all the cows and the hogs are. That's in the west of the country. The capital is on the right island of Zealand, and the one that is sitting there by itself called Kung, with the O and the slash through, it's based on a little bit of manure and a lot of sugar beets. There's a sugar plant down there. That's why we are there. Again, numbers. So we have 14 plants in Denmark, large scale. We have C&D stations. I come in a little bit later on the large scale. We transform 4.4 million tons of biomasses and bring back about 5 million tons to the fields again. And again, 7 million MMBTU, which is 8,000 trucks running 32 miles, 1,000 miles a year. A year. About numbers, of the 100% of gas that we produce, we spend 21% gas, give and take, on heating up the digesters and all process at plant, plus 15% of the energy for the trucking. So we do about 4 to 5 times up. That is pretty good. Yes, so out of the 100% of the energy, the 7.2 million MMBTU on the 14 plants in Denmark, we spent 21% of heating up the digesters and other process, and 1.5 of that energy in trucks. The trucks are not on gas, but compared. So it's about 4 to 5 times up in energy that what we do. Yeah. So here we have our flagship in Korsko, and that's basically how a plant look like in the sense of colors and so on. We do a lot of efforts into make the landscape and the surrounding look good, and also to have the transport in as a straight and line as possible. And this one here is the biggest also, 1 million tons it can take a year. We do about 780,000 tons right now. And those white columns you can see, that's where we pick up the CO2 and clean it up and make it food grade. And this one specifically is sold to the breweries in Denmark. So when you have a beer in Denmark, you know where the bubble comes from. Again, large scale, 500,000 to 1 million tons of biomasses. Why is that? Well, we also have a rule of thumb, I'll come back to that a little bit later, that we pick it up within a certain radius. And that makes sense, because if you make it even bigger, then you have to drive too far. So rather have one plant, and then in 50 miles away have another plant, and thereby have the optimum of reuse it, coming back to that reuse of the energy 4 times up. So you can't drive too far, because then you spend too much energy on that. So we have a centralized production. That means we pick up the manure, we go out to the farms and pick up the manure, and bring back digested. So very simply, if you have a stall, you have the lagoon, now you take the manure to the lagoon and on the fields. So if you participate in the energy model, you will install a so-called reception pit, because we like to have the manure fresh. Then the truck will come and pick up the manure and bring back, when it comes, it will bring back digestate to your lagoon and pick up the fresh manure and go back. So it's not really any super changes in your production as it is today. Yep.
What's too far?
I'm coming to that. 20, 30 miles, give or take. Yeah. So, and we have a very standardized design, so we can actually do it. Yes, sir?
You said you want fresh manure, so can it be in a holding pit for 3 or 4 days?
Yes. Within 7 days, it's considered fresh. Max 7 days. And if it's 8 day work. But what I forgot to say about this, when we go out and pick it up, it's good for any farms. 20 cows, 2,000 cows, because we just come more often. So no size, any size can participate here.
What is the cost to put in that holding area or that free, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right now, it's going from the cow to the food, so what is the cost?
Do you want to answer that? This is Bob's area.
So the cost is about $1 a gallon to build. And through Nature Energy's financial incentives, the cost for that is significantly reduced, along with other financial incentives that we provide.
Is there so many years that you guys give a farmer that much money? Are they have to guarantee they're gonna build their house for so X one years? Like say, you spend this money, somebody sells their house, like, is there so many years you have to know, have to put this in?
Yeah, depending on the investment that Nature Energy makes with the farmer, depends on the length of the contract. We would like to have 10-year contracts, and then we can work from there.
So, yeah, standardized design, a little bit boring. And the key what we do is the co-digesting. So manure itself, it contains gas, but when you add turkey manure, chicken manure, not only your nutrients go up, but also the gas production goes up. And that's why we do co-digesting. All our gas is going to grid. That's not a problem here in the US. There's a lot of grid around. And we have, I would say, very large competence center, not only within biology, within process, within mechanical, but also on the ag side with helping the farmers and so on, where Bob and Matt here is some of that team. So yeah, we have a lot of, not a lot, but we have a lot of students that work with us in our labs in Denmark, and we're also reaching out to the universities here. Yes, sir.
So when you say you digest this product down, the manure down, is it like a 2-3 stage digester process? And you get whatever, if you're generating methane, eventually the product in the digester, when it quits generating the gas, does that get re-land applied? Do you thicken it, or
Want to take that?
apply it on a farmer's field, or?
Yeah, so basically, from the time that the raw manure enters into the digesting chambers until it comes out is usually about a 30-day resident time, I believe. And what we would take out of there would be land applied, and it would be probably treated similar to a raw dairy manure, raw manure, except that some of the characteristics are going to change a little bit in the fact that we're going to have perhaps a little bit higher first-year nitrogen availability, and it's going to be much stronger, so the application rates will likely be less. And of course, there will be less odor associated with it as well.
So do you contract with the farmer for 10 years, and you get it from them? Do you bring that manure back to their site, or do you find other sites?
A little bit of both.
What much is it coming back in?
The digestate is going to be probably dry matter, maybe 7% dry matter. The nutrient water is going to be closer to 5% dry matter.
Are you mixing that with the spring sewer water?
No human waste. I'm absolutely clear. So what I forgot to say about the advantages of truck, I mean, there's a lot of win-win in this. And I always say the maybe not so win is the extra transport. Now, you got a lot of transport here, but we recognize that our 100 trucks coming in and out could be that drop too many, and then, yeah, it's too many. But for a farmer, when I mentioned that we could also pick up the manure and bring it back to somewhere else, because it's on a truck. You don't have to take it to the lagoon. So if there's a setup where you rather have it stored somewhere else or borrow a neighbor's storage and be closer to your fields and thereby saving on your spreading costs as such, this is one of the advantages of having another truck. And we do that all the time in Denmark to optimize things, finding these win-wins for everybody. This is what it's all about, win-wins. Yeah, so and Matt could talk a lot about that, so we basically also a nutrient factories to farmers. So very short, so when we get into manure and the other the other stuff, we go through the 30 to 35 days digesters, and it will come out, yeah, no gas on it, of course, but also a lot less smell. It does smell, but it doesn't hang in the air like natural manure, so there's a lot of neighbors that will be happy. But we can also take it through a press and a centrifuge, and then we take the solids out. Normally the phosphorus goes there with them, and then we have what we call nutrient water with less phosphorus, which some of your dairies probably would also find interesting in your application. And here, just of our lab, as I said, we spend a lot of resources in R&D. It's all about getting these bacteria the right way. They always tell me it's like human beings. If you're too fat, you run slow. If you're too slim, you die. So they have to be just perfect, and it's like it's like lives. Our model, there it is, very simple. We have it's based on a circular value chain. So we have our installation, we bring back the nutrients to the fields. It goes to feed again, goes to the cow and others, and organics are created and come back into the plant again. In a little bigger picture, you can see over here. Yes?
Sorry,
Hi.
sorry, Chris asked this, but I did have a couple organic farmers call me. Could you address if this could be done for organic farmers as well?
Yeah.
Yeah, in terms of the organic, it would probably be, it would depend on the individual certifying agencies. But I did talk just the other day with an organic fertilizer salesman. He said it should be pretty simple to work with that. We'd have to have some affidavits saying that there is no additional, nothing additional added, but it should be possible to work with organic farmers, yes. And the weed seeds would be much reduced through the thermophilic digestion process too.
That's right. It's all about questions. So here, if you see it on a larger scale, the circular economic, we have at the far right, left, my right, my left, what I showed you before, and then the gas goes to the pipeline, and the CO2 can go to either, as we do in Denmark, take it off and sell it to breweries, but we can also use it for what we call methanization. So when the power is cheap, you can actually make even more gas out of the biogases we have, all the way up to 98%. And then it's really kicking in big time. And gas, renewable, we got wind, sun, and biogas. Wind and sun gives electricity, but you can't really store it that well yet. It's most likely coming, where biogas is a fluid, or you can liquefy it, and so on. So it's really the only renewable that you can store in the long term, so to say. Yeah, and you can see that used for any heavy industry. That's what we're trying to indicate. I don't think any of us want to go on a plane with batteries. So here, for your question on the distance, our plants are centralized, and the size we have is based on our knowledge on how far it can really go out. I said it's about energy, but it's also really about truck. That the trucking time has something to say with the whole business case. Yeah, and we can both small and large farms can participate. And 20 miles, we say here, if you're 25, we can also do that, clearly. So it's kind of like an average of 20. And then I have one more film here. It's a little older film, so it has some funny stuff in the end. But it's about how we actually do it. And the key here is our truck with the arm. And please pay attention to how that arm is moving around and have no spill. Let me see if I can get it up and running here.
Plenty of sustainable energy and improved fertilizer turn slurry from our suppliers into a valuable resource. Slurry from agriculture can be used in the production of biogas. The slurry and manure is retrieved following a fixed schedule. A text message advises the supplier, such that he may lead the slurry to a pre-tank or start the agitator. Simultaneously, the degassed fertilizer is returned to the supplier's own tanks, or the neighbor's if he needs it more. The degassed fertilizer hardly smells at all, which is a very positive characteristic for all. At the biogas facility, the slurry is weighed prior to unloading in closed buildings. A sample of every delivery is made, and in the laboratory, dry matter and organic dry matter is measured. When the slurry is unloaded, the truck is loaded with degas slurry, which is then returned to the supplier. The truck is cleaned to avoid exchange of microbiology between the farms. The supplier's slurry is more valuable after processing in the biogas facility. The ammonium content is measured in the degas slurry prior to delivery to the supplier. Many plant breeders also use degas slurry, which gives a better yield through higher ammonium content, improved infiltration ability, and highly reduced washout compared to untreated slurry. It eases the supplier's workload considerably, but the biogas facility is also capable of handling deep litter. On top of this, the supplier also receives a much more homogeneous and higher quality fertilizer bag. Membership of the Cooperative of Suppliers to the biogas facility has several advantages to the suppliers. They convert manure and waste streams into sustainable energy, and the degassed mix of biomass is a considerably better fertilizer. That is sound economics. Become supplier to one of our existing or coming biogas facilities. Learn more at natureenergy.dk or contact us by phone 63156415.
So don't use the number, that's Danish, and the website is also .com now. Yeah. So here you see the truck again also. So all this about being clean. Sorry. Oh, yeah. I'm not so good at it. All this about being clean has two purposes. Biosecurity, first of all, but also being clean. You smell with your eyes, and we're dealing with manure, and we have a lot of manure in our plants, therefore we put a lot of efforts in being clean. And that arm, that's the secret, that's the trick. So everybody who participates will have a chute like that, as you can see, because that's the way you avoid spill. I have a film from Wisconsin of how some can deal with manure. I could put it on, I don't want to, because this is a completely different upgrade of transportation of manure. You pick it up, you transport it, you take it into our receiving hall, the door goes down, there's under pressure, and that the air that we suck out go to an active cold filter, takes off smell, and goes up to a small, slim, 197 feet tall stack. Why? So we don't have any smell. People have been in our plants, they can confirm that there is no smell. There's smell when you're in the building. There's smell in what we call the dry matter comes in, where you have deep litter, very strong smell, but it stays in there because of the under pressure we have in our buildings. So, expanding here in US, so we have an office in St. Paul, and we have an office in Quebec. We're about 40 people now, give and take. And our aim is to have 15 projects in North America by 26. Are we going to make that? I don't think so, because we got a little bit delayed. So 27 then. We also participate in ABC, the so-called American Biogas Council, and also the Coalition for Renewable, or the RNG Coalition in California. Why? Because we're trying to make the space that we're in better and more correct and more workable for all of us, including you guys as a farmer. Every time we make a project, we make a website that we always try to improve. This website here is for Benson. It's not super flashy, but there's a lot of questions, a lot of pictures, and a lot of good stuff for learning about what we're doing. And there's also a place where you can leave a message, a question, and we'll answer that for you. And that answer and questions will come up together with all the others. So it kept as a Wikipedia on the matter, so to say. And hopefully we'll have a succenter.nature-energy.com soon. This is one of the things you'll find in on those websites. numbers of all the equipment on one of our sites, and let me just stay at where I said before. So in the receiving hall, what is that, number 4? The trucks goes in, no, sorry, number 3, the truck goes in, and the doors close, and all the air goes to number 7, which is the actual coal filter. There's 2 of them, so we can actually replace one and still be in operating, and it takes up the slim stack of 197. That's number 7, for example. So we like to be very open about what we're doing and very transparent and explain what we're doing. And yeah, send an email. As one said, our plants are actually quite boring. Truck comes in, gates go down, unload, load, gates go up, trucks leave. That's it. Nothing much going on. There's no big fans, not a lot of noise. Yeah. Boring, as somebody said. So a few renderings. I'm just going to jump through them real quick. So here there was a project out in Wisconsin that unfortunately we didn't do. The same scene from the side. And so the land is from real pictures, but the other is 3D rendering. This one here is up in Benson, which we're still working on, in Swift County, seen from the side. I don't know if you know Benson. There's an old Fiberman plant that used to burn turkey manure from the entire state. That closed down, I don't think, 7, 8 years ago. That's the old feeding hall that will still be sitting there. Another classic, and you can see they all look the same. So standard design, same colors, and those colors are actually chosen by an architect for being so-called eye-friendly. Well, it's the same side from the road. Again. So, any questions so far? Now we'll get into the, yeah?
I got a question about, I guess, the ownership of the carbon credits. As the dairy industry is coming under more pressure all the time, carbon neutral like every other industry in the world. Typically, the carbon credits are with the end user, the gas. Is there any part of that that can be, I guess, held on to by the farm?
That's a very good question. So, it is about carbon credit. Yeah. So the gas is sold off like. Use your mic, please. Oh, yeah, sorry. So it's all about carbon credit in the end of the day. So the gas is sold off by the same as natural gas. And the green molecules are going with the black molecules and travel in all the pipe around the US. The carbon credit are sold off to companies that need to lower the footprint. Normally it could be DHL that want to offset their carbon that they spend on diesel, and they could buy these credits so they can get neutral. You as a farmer, you can say you do get portion of the financial by the incentive that we have by signing up, and Bob can tell you a lot more about that. But the credit itself, you still get carbon neutral, but you won't get it like a certificate for it. But what's going to happen is that where you supply your milk, they will ask you, so how is your operation going? I mean, I'm just speculating here in the future. We have it in Europe, all right, so it's coming here and everybody talks about it. And by being part of a biogas facilities or a digester on your farm, I'm not necessarily saying Nature Energy, that is your way of saying that you're actually doing something environmental friendly. And what do I mean by environment friendly? Because we truck all this around, right? Yeah, but never forget, when the manure is sitting out there in the fields and the methane just go up in the sky, and that's 10 times stronger than CO2. Everybody's always talking about CO2. So that is your benefit. I call it the soft values. Then all the hard financial that Bob will tell you all about, and all the benefits you have, less spreading and better digested than regular manure and so on. So there's always this win-win in all the small details in the whole production.
You mentioned you guys in Denmark, your income went up like 30 to 20%, from 21 to 22. Do you guys pass that same percentage on to suppliers?
That's hard to say. In Denmark, we have a very supportive government, so it's actually quite easy Here in US, it's the free market. And when I started looking into US, I was looking at California prices, super high. I mean, like, why didn't we do this 5 years ago? Those have gone down from 250 to, I think they were 80 today. They've been down in 60. So you can imagine the business case doesn't look good. So that we don't look that way anymore. So we look at what we call the voluntary market, so Microsoft, DSL, all these companies that will buy the green gas. But quite frankly, we don't know 100% sure what our profit is in the end of the day. We do believe it's going to be a profit. I don't think it's going to be 30%, as you said, and we.
But as you guys increase profit, do you still pass it on to the farmer, or is it just you guys?
Yes, we do, actually. So maybe you want to say a little word about what's in that package, Bob.
I will, and I also want to try to address the carbon credit question a little bit too. We do, straightforward, we monetize the carbon credits that are generated. Now, those are only from the manure management component of your carbon footprint, if you will, on your dairy. You also got enteric methane, the cow, as she's ruminating. You also have electricity use, which is about 5%. The manure management's about 25, 30%, according to DMI anyway, and the work that they've been doing. Same as then true with your enteric methane, it's about a third, give or take. And then the carbon sequestration that you can, sequestering carbon from your crop production practices. Let's say going from moldboard plow to no-till, right? That carbon that you're sequestering there. So it's only that manure management piece. And also the way that your co-op, most co-ops now are, participate with a farm program and the environmental stewardship module of that, right? That's where they're gauging where you're at on, what's your carbon footprint. So yes, you will be reducing your carbon footprint as it relates to the entire U.S. dairy industry's goal of being greenhouse gas neutral or better by 2050, if you participate with us. So that. As far as the whole financial package, so yeah, you're gonna have costs to put in the reception pit. We're also gonna ask you to cover your existing manure pit that you have that right now takes your manure, okay? With a floating cover and a sump pump on it, right, to take the rainwater out. Now, nitrogen isn't necessarily a greenhouse gas, but you have to think about in total the carbon footprint and energy and just the volatilization of the nitrogen. I mean, nature is part of our company name, and so we want to do it the right way, and we're helping to incentivize that for you as dairy farmers. That capital expense, it'd be foolish of us to say that, hey, we want to partner with you, but you got to make these capital investments on your own. That's not the case. So we base it on the tons of manure or the gallons. I know that's what you guys all thinking in terms of gallons. We think in terms of tons. I'm not going to get into metric tons and conversion and all that stuff. But so that's what we do, and it's going to cost us the same whether we stop out at your dairy once a day, once every other day, or if we stop out 5 times a day, right? Our cost to go back and forth is the same. So our model, our financial incentive model is based off of that. More off of distance. If you're closer, it's going to cost us less than if you're farther, right? So it's those types of things on the annual financial benefit component that we have. And we also have profit share that we provide. And I know Matt will kick me if I forget this. Our model, you heard on the video that we're measuring every load. We're taking a sample of every load that comes in. We know the nutrients that's coming in. We're bringing back nutrients. We're going to base it off of nitrogen. And through our processes on the back end after the manure's been digested, we'll run it through a screw press, run it through a couple of centrifuges, one for sure, maybe a second. That allows us to get more phosphorus out, right? So that product that we're bringing back, more nitrogen, in part because of the turkey litter, and in part because of the processing of the regular anaerobic digestion of it. Your gallons that you need to apply per acre are going to be less, so you're going to most likely, not in all cases, most cases realize application savings. But the key is also because through that separating process, taking out the solids, if we short you on any potash, we're going to settle up on that every year. We'll be able to cut you a check for that difference if we short you on potash, so you can still get that out on your alfalfa or wherever you need it.
Excuse me, you with the foster.
I think he was first.
So then if you're monitoring them all and you're gonna make it right, if you short us, if you're long at the end of the year because you brought water loads out and we sent in, are we getting billed?
I think you were asking if you're long on any products. Well, we'll bring back to you suppliers up to 200% nitrogen if you want it for nothing, and the nutrients that go with. So really, depending on what you may have for land available to you, or if perhaps you had a neighbor that really likes your manure and you wanted to sell it to them, that's up to you. But we'll bring back more nitrogen is what we're gonna, we really base it on. We'll bring you back more at no cost. Absolutely.
Will it be less volatile or the same volatility? Will the volatility of the nitrogen be less volatile or the same? That's what we're concerned.
Again, the manure basins will be covered, and there's more ammonium in that. So, that's where you're getting more plant available nitrogen, right? Did I get that right?
Yeah, it's going to be really important to get it incorporated. You could potentially lose more through volatilization if it was not incorporated. That is correct.
So what would be the difference, like, in your nutrient value, the nutrients and the dollar amount that you're getting from the farm and what actually goes back? You got figures on the lost nutrients and all the other nutrients?
Yeah, we've got a spreadsheet that we'll go around to the different farms with and make sure that, based on available nitrogen, total nitrogen, whatever's the most important to you. But we'd make sure that financially speaking, it was going to be even Steven as far as that goes.
I think we should introduce ourselves just a little, so people know, Jesper introduced us as Bob and Matt, but.
Well, I'm Matt. So I've been working in Stearns County primarily, in a few different neighboring counties as a crop advisor for 25 years or so, working primarily with dairy farmers, large and small. So yeah, I recently started with Nature Energy, just in January actually. And so that's agronomist is what my position is.
Bob, and so I spent about 10 years in the farm supply co-op business, first out running a fertilizer plant and then doing other things within the co-op. About 16 years as executive director with Minnesota Milk Producers, and then last 9 or so years with your dairy checkoff.
I have several questions. They should have quick answers. What's the dry matter coming back to my farm? What's the difference?
Depends on what you're getting or what you want. If you want digestate, it's going to be 7-8%, maybe a little bit more. It really depends on what we're.
7-8% less.
Total dry matter. Total dry matter, the digestate. Dry matter of the nutrient water is going to be somewhere around 5, so similar to what your current raw manure is.
So
It will be both.
So who's going to run the digestate, the post-digester product? Who's going to run it through a press?
We do.
You do. You're going to send it back as a solids or as a liquid, or it's my choice? Your choice.
Your choice. Typically, dairies, nutrient water, higher nitrogen, lower phosphorus. Trying to keep the phos from building in your soil.
So that's my second question. That phos is coming out just with the presses, or are you?
And the centrifuges.
And centrifuges. And then, my last question is regarding MPES permits. Because we're commingling manure from many farms. Now, that's legal in this state, correct?
Yeah. For what we're doing, yes.
Yes. But there's some debate, I understand, about whether or not all these farms have to be under one MPDS permit. Wait, am I wrong?
Well, it's a transfer of manure, so we're kind of like borrowing it, if you will, and we're transferring it back to you. So, no, there may be, depending on your size and whatnot, and what you may need to do for a reception pit, you're gonna have to work with environmental services or MPCA, depending on your size, right? Because you're gonna be adding another structure there. Unless some of them may already have a structure that could serve as a reception pit, with just some slight modifications. So, no, what, actually right now what NPCA is trying to figure out, is this just manure again, or is it a new class? Because it comes back, the solids are more suspended, it's a lot easier, it's not like handling that slimy manure that you're used to, that raw manure when it's going out there. It's a lot easier product to handle, so, and there's more nitrogen availability, so they're trying to think about, is there a new class of this digestate that, that's kind of inside baseball, Dave, within what NPCA is trying to figure out, because they recognize that it still has manure, it's still manure, but it's like exceptional quality manure, if you will.
So
Same, but
the
different.
post-pressed product could go off, you would deliver it to a field that was closer than my dairy.
We could do it to a storage facility, yeah, covered.
Has to be a covered
Yep.
storage facility.
And it's also, it's important that it has to be a storage. It's not like you can call up and say, Wednesday at 4 o'clock, I need it. That's
One
not,
thing- Yeah, one thing we are looking at, we've talked about a little bit, is, where there's center pivots, this nutrient water, because there's no odor, very little odor in it, that, there has been attempts in the past, let's try regular digested stuff come out of a mesophilic digester and apply that through center pivot. There's been too much odor in that,
Yep.
in some cases, from hearing back from some of those farmers that have done that, in Minnesota. Our thermophilic, the bugs even take out, I would say probably more of that odor. And so we're looking at maybe like temporary frac tanks and stuff like that, these pivots as another alternative for those, and we have some dairy producers that have their own pivots. We already have a dairy producer for the Painesville plant locked in, that has pivots on it, so, he's anxious to try that. That answer your question specifically.
Thank you.
So you said this, storage structures for the digest, they have to cover, that's really all organization, because it's more on, yeah, so.
You talked about fresh manure, most of our, I think we're not quite in dairies here, but I'm not sure of that. We have, water from the manure, we have water from the cleaning facilities. Does that have to be separated, that you can't have other, washing solutions in the manure, as I think most people have now, or at least we do, but I don't know what others have.
Yes, so, the short end of the question was, milk house wastewater, can that be included? Absolutely, it can. That's what we figure out for gallons per cow per day, 18 gallons per cow plus 5 gallons of wash water. So we figure 23 gallons per cow per day is when we start doing our math. When we come up with the gallons, convert that to tons for like our financial incentives or something like that.
So if you have a contract with a farmer, are you gonna be taking all of his manure? Or otherwise, the manure coming back, because the window to apply this on the field is a small window, so the majority of it is gonna be going back into the lagoon. Can you mix this product coming back into the lagoon?
So what goes into your lagoons, if you partner with us, what goes into your lagoons is the digestate after it's gone through the digester. That's all that would be going into your lagoons after, because we pick up the raw manure in a reception pit. So it comes out of your freestyle barn, whatever you got, into this reception pit. That's where we pick it up. We deliver the nutrient water digestate back into your existing lagoon. That's covered.
So you would take, if I had 4 million gallons of manure, you would take all of that.
Yes. Really what happens is, and so if you got a 4 million gallon lagoon, let's just say there's probably 3.5 million gallons or 3 million, some number short of 4 million, that's actually from your cows, the rest is water, right? Snow and rainwater, which you're eliminating by putting a cover on. And when you start doing the math on the cost for a cover at $1.50 a square, and in some cases based on how much snow and rain get in there, a cover in and of itself almost pays for itself. I just did some back or whatever, envelope calculation. Yeah. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I mean,
Now, in some cases, you may need to have a bypass, right? Because depending on where you're located, if you got road restrictions, weight restrictions in the spring, there's gonna be some time that we may not be able to come out and get all that manure, right? So bypassing it, which would maybe already be in your existing system, because if it's coming from your barn, somehow they get to that manure, to that lagoon, you got that system set up. All we're doing is we're stopping that by having it coming into a reception pit for us to get that raw manure as often as possible. We don't all of Sunday. In a sense,
You're taking so many gallons per load. Are you getting that many gallons back, or is it less because we got less or more nutrient?
We measure the nutrients, and we want to make sure that we're going to get you back at least the same amount of nitrogen or more. That's how we're measuring it.
But that, I'm just saying, okay, you're getting that many volume, or, units of nitrogen, your gallons would be less?
Significantly less, half, or even much less than that.
what's happening to the rest of it?
Yeah. The rest of it's what we're digesting with, and so, again, it's a turkey litter in this case.
So it would go to other storage areas?
Yeah.
Either
And-
work with people to build storage areas, or we would utilize existing storage areas.
And eventually to commercial crop growers. We also have a solution for them, so they can use that instead of fertilizer, industrial fertilizer, in a very good deal as well.
So I'm here from the Sauk Center Public Utilities, Deb and Shannon are too. And our concern is, I'm with the Water Wastewater Department.
We come to
How
that.
is this going to affect the Sauk Center Public Utilities?
Next slide, I have it. The next slide, okay?
Rate, things like that.
Yeah, in the next slide. So, any more questions? Thank you very much for all these questions. It's super. Yes?
Alongside with that path on there, you could have taken that as well.
Yes.
Yes, our first priority is to focus on getting the liquid manure. And then as we, get that lined up, we'll also be, obviously working with Janio on the turkey litter, and Jesper can speak more on where things are at with that. But then also it's about getting other organics, of which Benepack would be one of them.
So, in the end of the day, we'll have a lot of products. For example, your bed pack. We'll make a deal in that, pick it up, bring it in, and there's a lot of good gas in it. And
Yeah, you heard Jesper call it deep litter. That's what they
Deep
call it.
litter. Deep pack. What do you call it? Bed pack? Okay, now we call it bed pack from now on.
You guys pay based on how much energy you guys make on what we're bringing in, or based on
When we make our business case, we make it a bit conservative, and we also take a lot of risk. But we also know from the other organics that is in the area, for example, the bed pack, then we can increase that gas and sell that more, and thereby actually makes it work. And then coming back to your profit there, we really don't know, but we know we will make a profit. Otherwise, we wouldn't do it, of course.
Okay,
not in the turkey farm anymore.
Okay.
But they've got dry matter, so how do you get that in and out of the plant? And then, so
we have,
no, I'm not back either.
yeah, so we have kind of,
Say the turkey farm for that?
we pick it up at the turkey farm, yes.
And then how do you keep the smell from, like, the neighbors not smelling it? Because it's not liquid, you can.
Yeah, we put it in a truck and we'll have a truck with a cover on. And that truck, of course, will smell. We all know turkey manure. But when it comes into the hall, it closes down and we have under pressure, and then you will not smell it from outside. So we have basically 3 intakes, right? One for manure, which is fluid, and comes with the truck as you saw with the arm. And that's the most obvious because there's most of it. And as I said, you will see a difference because, well, we call it milk trucks, actually chocolate milk trucks, right? And the second intake will be the dry matter with the bed pack and other stuff. That's where the turkey manure comes in tipping trucks and tips into the crane. And that crane will feed, of course, the digester, but it'll also move around on the stuff in that storage to make it more homogenized. Because it could be 1 load of carrots, and then 1 load of turkey manure, 1 load of bed pack. So we need to mix that as best as we can. And the crane is very good at that because it runs.
That's all sealed when it drives in and too,
Yes.
before you dump it off.
Well, it has a plastic cover on it.
How many trucks will you go in and out?
100 give and take.
In a day?
100. Monday to Saturday, 100. Sunday, we don't drive. And it will be between 6 to 8 o'clock in the morning. That's something we'll talk to the city about. So we can agree that clearly if you want to have it between 8 and 2, well, guess what? More trucks, right? So we like to have it over, let's say, more than over 2 shifts. Not at night. Not overnight. And then we also have the third intake, which is basically, what do you call it? Containers. It could be grease, glycerin, stuff like that. A truck comes in, you hook up a hose, and you pump it in, and there's no spill and no smell either. And that's it. So 3 intakes, where manure, of course, is the biggest. And then we'll come to the question before. I just want to go here very quick on the economic benefits. So before we even get further, I just want to tell you that this is based on Danish data. We are working on a report so we can have American figures. Well, I'm 100% sure that these are not way off. So this is the benefits you see from a Danish plant. And I'm sure, yeah, that's it, same again. So it would give about 12 to 16 full-time jobs. 16, why? I mean, depending on how many truck drivers we need. All truck drivers will be local. Local people have a tendency to drive better, more safely. They know their neighbor. And that will, give the numbers in man hours. Local services, we will not have electricians and mechanicals on site. We'll hire that in from the local community. If you can't hire it, eventually we'll have to hire some. If we can't hire them locally, we'll have to get them on board, of course. But that's our model. And also construction. It's about 650,000 hours. Clearly not all of them can go to Sauk City because there isn't. And we'll generate about $15 million in what's called GNP to the local community. That's, all the pizzas and gas and all the stuff that is being added on to what you already have here because of our entrance here, hopefully. And finally, and not least, we like to be that good, we call it corporate neighbor, because of course it's not me, it's not Bob, it's Nature Energy. And we're doing that in any place we are in Denmark and France and Holland as well. So what does that mean? Being that good neighbor. We will not ask the city for anything. We will apply grants and stuff from state and federal, but not city. We would like to have it could be a scholarship for the high school. It could be an open house if somebody want to come and see what we're doing. All our offices are designed so it can be one big classroom. I mean, this is new. And these classes, what do they call about? STEM? STEM? STEM. It could be part of that it could come over and, because there's a lot of things going on here. Mechanically, biologically, process, electricity, management, all that could be integrated in some kind of education. You could also think about a food waste collection program if that's interesting for the city. All that we'd like to participate and do our shares in. So now we're coming to the utility thing. So first we have and I mention this because if we keep talking, you will hear a lot about our gate model, gate 0, gate 1, gate 2, 3, 4, and 5, that's where we're building. So gate 0, that's where we are at right now. We're taking the project, becomes a project number within Nature Energy, it has a name, and people in Denmark, as well as US, will know about Sauk Center. And in between gate 0 and gate 1, that's where we have to secure the land that we like to build on with a land option. We are talking to some at the moment. It's not going that easy, but frankly. And we also need to be more clear about the feedstock, and that's where Bob comes into the picture. Our procurement guys come into what we call non-manure, and Matt, of course, sorry. And then at gate 1, I hate gate 0 because what is that? 0 is like nothing, but it is. Gate 1 is where we write the first big check. That's where we hire a Cadis for all the permitting work. So the city, again, will help us when we ask. They will not do anything. We'll take care of all the permitting with the support, of course. Sometimes the city has to sign something. And then gate 2 that's the fanfare. That's where we start construction and open the site and have the so-called FID, Financial Investment Decision. So from gate 0 to gate 2, approximately 1 month and 2-3 months. So 14, 15 months. And then we take 2 years to build. So give and take 3 years, we should put gas in the pipe. However, we will ask for manure before that because we start filling up the tanks a lot, like 3 months before we actually start production. Because you got to think about it, you got to take like 500 tons of manure out of your already circulating system, right? Yeah, and so we need a lot of power, as you can see up on the board, but it was more on the water. So we have manure and turkey, roughly, and a lot of others. We need to dilute that because there's a lot of dry matter in the turkey. And we need to have about 11% of dry matter in order to be able to pump it. We dilute that with water. In this case, I have 11.9 million. It could be 8 million. It could be 10. I don't think it's going to go above the 11.9 million. And that could be brown water. Now we talked about sewer. It could actually be the clean water from the sewer can go in. Or it could be something from a cheese plant or whatever. It doesn't have to be clean water. The message is here that those, let's say 12 million gallons, goes back to the field, not in your sewer. We only use about 130,000 gallons of water for coffee and washing and stuff like that. That goes back, and toilets, that goes to your sewer. Yep. So there's not a whole lot, right? And that water, as I said, we want to be that good neighbor. Many cities, towns, and villages here in the US, they have their own production or own well. We like to buy that if that makes sense. So, and if not, then we can always drill a well on the site, whatever's possible. We want to be that good neighbor. We want to work. We want to buy the electricity from the city if we can. Clearly, you can buy gold too expensive, as you say, but I'm sure we can make a good agreement there and be that good local neighbor.
Yes, sir. I have a question.
Yes.
This isn't concerning the water, but above that, the power demands. When I toured the Holstead
Yeah.
facility, that was most similar to what would be the initial project here in Sauk
It
Center.
look a little bit different, but colors and all that the same, yes.
Currently, it doesn't have plans to have the P2X CO2.
No.
But the talk is that each model would be built with the ability for future expansion.
Yes, but we are aware of that PTX calls for a lot of power. So that means also that more invested in substations and so on.
So
we don't expect you guys to be able to provide that day one.
yeah.
It could be something, okay, we operate that. It's a good business case. You guys take care of the substation, we get the power. But it has to be, there's a little bit before that really get into play. But there's so much going on that renewable side and the wind and so on. And actually, the fact that we can do this, you have to see this PTX as being, for example, that you take the CO2, you store it, and when we have a lot of wind, we got surplus in power, and where to use it? It could be that. So it could be like that release of that surplus of power. So eventually, it will be a needed thing, actually, when we go in this green direction.
Yeah, the plan would be not, for the the purpose of the power utility, our public utilities plans, it wouldn't be in 3 years that they're going to need this additional
no.
1 to 2. This
No.
is a possible 10-year.
No. And we don't do our business case based on PTX, Power to X. We do it on all the manure you have here, and we do not calculate that there will be more manure than is already here. Okay, so it's not like we come into town that more cows would suddenly be needed. That's not the way we size things. Because, I mean, there's a lot of resistance of having too many cows, so to say. And we just can't base a business case on that at all. We based on the stuff that is here already. And there's a lot of cows in Stern County, you all know that.
I'm sorry, what was your distance that you thought was the farthest you could practically haul?
Well, it's an average of 20 miles. Clearly, some are closer, some are further away. But it's the same for everybody that participates. We can't go 100 miles. Nor,
We would go up to 30.
yeah. So, and the guys further out doesn't have any disadvantage compared to the one closer to. Same thing, free.
So how many cows is this plant gonna handle?
17,000. 17.
What about sand?
Yes, good question. So, sand is not good. It's good for cows. So, would you tell about what we're doing on the sand?
Sure.
Okay, go on.
So, yeah, digesters don't like sand. Obviously, what are your options as a dairy farmer if you want to participate, be a partner? Somehow getting the sand out of there, sand lane that at least meets the sand removal rate of a mechanical sand separator, like a McClanahan or something like that, or put in a mechanical sand separator. That's what, $1.5, $2 million, probably not always the most economical or feasible thing to do. We are, because I did mention that after the digestate comes out of the digesters, we're running it through a screw press. At that point, if we have certainly enough demand for digested fibers, we would make that available for a fee at the plant for people to come and pick up. After that screw press, we would probably run it through something like a infrared dryer for 2 reasons. One, an additional attempt at pathogen kills. The thermophilic does kill the vast majority of pathogens, including yonis, according to Penn State. But, you know, we want to make sure, so we'd give it another heat dose. The other reason is to try to really dial in on what would be the right dry matter content of those fibers, so it's not too dry and it's going to blow around in your barns, not too wet where you're going to get rapid bacteria growth. So that's another option. What we're also doing right now, we're working with Dr. Marcia Endres at the U of M. We are doing some research on straw pellets for a bedding source. We have 2 dairies in Stearns County that are part of that, 2 dairies down in Winona County that are part of that. We've had straw pellets in the dairies since April 3rd. We're running at 6 months on pellets. They're all on robot dairies with somatic cell count analyzers, so we're getting daily somatic cell count, milk quality numbers, and they're testing a bunch of other, herd health types of, with pedometers on them and, locomotion scoring and cow cleanliness and so on and so forth. One of the key elements that we've heard, certainly of, with sand, a little bit more gritty, cows feel that they have more sure footing. So one concern we know that has been brought up is, what about that sure footing? So obviously, from your repro programs and everything, that's key, right, to, profitability for you guys. So that's obviously another thing, but we're not going to get really, honestly, solid repro data on a 6-month study. But we're going to get some decent milk quality numbers Right now, all four of the dairy producers have said it's a really nice bedding source for the cows. Don't really have much for milk quality stuff yet, right? I mean, it's only been a month that these pelts have been in there. So we'll have more on that, but quite honestly, it's exceeding my expectations. I was just hoping it would be at least as good as, solids for bedding, and it's outperforming that right now, at least the first month.
I think what Bob just talked about here is one of the typical examples when HNE stands for solving issues. And yeah. And
If you know what the cost of straw is, we will be providing, we will provide those straw pellets for you at less than what you're paying for sand today.
I was just about to say that. So the next step here is what we're doing here. Talk to you guys, talk to the council members, because we really don't want to be a pain in the butt. We want to see if we're welcome. We think we have a lot to offer. And if you paid today we didn't speak that much about gas, right? We spoke about the stuff that comes in, what's actually you guys are providing and what you will see in the city, because the gas is go to the pipe and gone, right? So that's what HNE is all about, win-win, all the time. And well, we've been very successful in Denmark, and I strongly believe we'll also be here in the US and hopefully also here in Sauk Center. In order to back up what me and Bob and Matt is bragging about here is we have these trips to Denmark. We start calling it the smell test, and now we actually figured out that was a bad word because it's actually a non-smell test. And we had 3 trips so far. I had the first one in September 21. Bob had the second one, and Matt had the third one. So, and what we did was inviting all kinds of different stakeholders, farmers, EDA members, city members, and so on. And we tour Denmark. We visit our headquarters in Denmark. And we also had a good time in a little sightseeing in Copenhagen before we shipped it out. And the last trip here in March, Emily Treaton has made a little log or web, and I can go in and see that, because then you have these people words on it, and also a little story about Denmark, little country in the north there.
Emily Tweeten is a dairy farmer down, her husband milk cows down in Winona County. Her husband is a blogger, so video, she did 10-minute YouTube video.
So here,
It's good.
at the trip in 21, so we had Benson people and Wisconsin people, and the guy with the white cap, his name is, what's his name? The Wisconsin Secretary of Ag. Harstorff, yeah. I want to tell you this little, for me, an eye-opener back then. So in September 21, I only been here twice. I need a special visa to get in because of COVID. And when he came over, he said, "Jesper, you did a miracle." Okay, that's not every day I do that. So I asked him, "What are you talking about?" So he said, "Well, you got a whole bunch of people from Wisconsin and Minnesota in the same bus saying skål." And this is September 21. I've been here twice. I did not know anything about Vikings, so I was still a big question mark. But of course, I found out later what that meant. The trips can definitely be recommended. We will have one in September again, but we will also make a special trip if it's needed, if somebody's interested, to go. We cannot pay the ticket. We can, but we will take care of you when you come to Denmark. That's some of these compliance rules. And here, just a few pictures of what happens. You go on the site, you talk to the people that operate the site. Not me, not Bob, not Matt. We answer questions, if any. So you really get a first look at it. And of course, you'll feel and see the sites. This is about manure, and we have a big effort in being clean. Somebody could call it a poo factory. It's just a negative sound to it. But you'll be very, very positive surprised when you visit one of these. And here, we also visit a sand separator farm. last trip, but also a hog farm. So we're looking into a solution for hog farmers as well. We don't have it quite yet, but I think in the fall, so we can also have hog farms into our farms, to our plants, or hog manure. Sorry?
You think the hog farms and maybe hog farms get the manure?
That is one of the issues. So it's about taking the manure to a certain distance away and pick it up from there. Because they're very concerned about it. Huh?
Still debatable.
Yeah, well, I'm sure we're going to find a solution.
I mean, if I pump it half a mile, so you're trucking me in it.
No? Well, I know one in Pipestone who will.
It's a lot more.
Yeah, good.
Traffic is limited to start.
All right. Yep, that's it. Any questions from the council?
There's one back there.
Yep, good. Way back.
So I guess if you're putting a plant up out in Denton, it's pretty obvious you're focused on big areas. Because there's no small areas left. But you got all this extra semi-traffic going down these county roads and these township roads. And all these county roads are gonna have to be redone. And it's the landowners that are gonna have to pay this bill because once the county gets this green energy money, it don't come back out to rural Minnesota. Because I look at turbines every day and I know what the county is getting. And it's not coming back. So, I mean, you talk about we want small farmers, big farmers, but it's pretty clear that you're focused on big areas.
That is not correct, sir. What is the smallest farm you signed up for? 100? 130 is the smallest we have so far. The big advantage of what we do being centralized is actually the fact that the smaller farms has the possibility to be accepted. We know from the political side down in St. Paul, they like that a lot. So, and I totally disagree with your argument because we go in a truck and it doesn't matter if you turn left or right. That's the advantage of having that much or that more traffic. So smaller farms, yes, absolutely.
And what about the roads?
The roads are the roads and they will be torn down either by our trucks or somebody else's trucks, yes. They need to be maintained as anything else.
Because they need to be rebuilt a third faster than normal.
Well, we have one advantage in Denmark. Everything is big in the U.S. except trucking, and this is because of the weather. We, of course, take care of that. I mean, we calculate that into our business case, that we cannot go with the same load as we have in Denmark. And therefore, it's more expensive to operate here than it is in Denmark. But that's just a fact. We call it the nature energy model, and I call it in the American context, which means we like to do what we do in Denmark, we know that works, and we have to implement it here in the U.S. For example, the trucking will be with less weight than we normally do in Denmark.
I mean, it just seems foolish to truck it that much in the first place.
Sorry?
It just seems foolish to truck it that much in the first place.
Well, I mean, you get, that's right. I mean, yeah. I mean, if there was if we had a big dairy 2 miles down the road, and that dairy want to participate, we will most likely pump it, yes. That makes sense.
So for dairy farmers that partner with us, they're gonna be increasing their net income by partnering with us. So financially it benefits them.
So for you, lately, I understand, like, we're gonna be pumping less than an hour, and then we get less back, but how does the model pay us for our, like, what is like what are you paying us? Basically, what are you paying us?
Do you know how much you make per cow?
How much do you pay for
Yeah?
that? Yeah.
What is that, 450?
I know how much money I make per car.
Okay, divide by 100 then.
But,
So what Matt and I would do is we would come and sit down and talk with you individually about that. I mean, there's a lot of competition out there, right? For
we did,
Yeah, the range is, the range on a per cow per year is it's gonna depend. Again, our model is a one-time upfront payment to you, obviously, because we're asking you to make an investment yourself. To cover a large portion of that. That's a one-time payment. And then it's annual payment. Both of those payments are based on how much manure that is brought to us, that's greater than 5% solids. Okay? And then there's profit share. The better we do, the better you're gonna do.
So how many years does it take to pay off the investment of the reception area?
On average, some of the stuff we've seen is less than 2 years to some less than a year.
It depends a little bit on the size
So
of the
it's not
store.
long.
Depends on the size of your storage. The size of the storage is the square footage, right? Because the bigger the square footage, the more cost it's gonna be for you up front for that cover. We believe me, that was, it made us a lot easier for us, hey, just take that out of the equation, it would be less expensive for us as well. We took the cover out, but that's something that we will stick with.
so, as Bob says, that, I guess every farm has its own story, so to say. But there was one farm that we was talking to, and we got numbers up on the table. I don't want to mention the farm because it's just going to be confusing. But long story short, they were looking into 11% extra on the bottom line, just participating. And then you have all the other advances, stronger fertilizer, security when they come and ask you if how do you do your milk and so forth. I think 11% without, I'll take that. I don't know.
So you actually have a model of a return, a net return? Let me just, it's more so almost not a question, but more of a statement. You stated earlier that we don't know what the profit will be, but we know there will be a profit. That's an interesting, business statement. It's kind of high risk if as producers, we're making an investment, which isn't significant the way it sounds, but it's still an investment that we have to do. If it doesn't work and you go to bankruptcy, we don't get paid back. That's a little it's just a simple thing, but there has to be a return model where as producers, we can invest in it. Everyone knows that it's a tight margin business.
Yeah.
So
About bankrupt. Now, when we came here first and talked about nature energy and all our green colors, yeah, that's right, Denmark, 400 people. But now we're owned by Shell. There are 86,000 people. I don't think they're going to go bankrupt tomorrow.
well, just because you're bigger doesn't mean you're not.
No, I totally agree.
There's risk involved in every case, you're absolutely right. Risk involved from us, investing dollars into your operations. There's risk that you would have, absolutely. No question there is. But we would not be able to, we will not build one unless we know it's going to be profitable.
That is the gate two, the FID. We still have a long way to go to see if this can work.
Investment decision, put a shovel in the ground until it meets a high standard of
And then you'll have
profitability.
a partnership, basically, model for people that you're partnering with.
Yes.
to Supply you.
Yes, we need to secure 80% of the manure before we do FID. So if half of you saying we're not in, we have to leave town. That's the cold facts.
You were saying, 5% solid of manure, so if you send a load with got too much water and put solid, you adjust it to 5% to get the figures, or is that too wet of a load, so it's condemned by you, you use it, we don't get paid?
Good question. You need to average at least 5% total solids of your manure. And of those 5% solids, less than 12% can be sand. If you're below that level on solids, your annual incentive from us is reduced to 70% of the total, as is your profit share. I mean, and we don't want people just adding water to get more tons and like to increase what their payments are. I mean, that's just not good business, and I don't know any really do that.
How would you go about securing your volume?
How do you go about securing the amount of volume that we need?
Yes, just so, are you gonna just put it out for everybody?
So here's an example, Matt and I, we sit across the table, and whoever else here would want to have that table, and we walk through the scenario based on your cow numbers, so we get the total amount of gallons that you have, and your manure analysis, sit down, walk through all of that, add in the financial incentives, and then, there it is, we lay it out.
So I'm kind of sure everybody would have a lot of questions as to their operations. No, it's the more difficult.
Sorry.
And they almost have to sit down with the individual.
Yeah, individually is really where it works the best, because of, like,
It's the only way to.
yeah,
And probably more than one meeting.
yeah.
So this is kind of, this will kind of take quite a while to, how long the time frame to get that all together, like.
We're gonna start our work in earnest pretty quick here. And it could take upwards of, I don't know, 8, 9 months at least, I don't know.
Yeah.
Takes time.
Yeah, I mean, certainly through starting now, I mean, obviously from our standpoint, it's a priority for us to meet with you, but right now, we're not a priority, because you walk out your door, right? Sunshine, so.
So do any of these payments have to go to the state or the county, like wind turbines, if they had electrical tax or something that goes to the state and county and some comes back to the township then? Is there any of this being taxed by the state or the county that is paid to the county or not, or what's the deal?
Well, we have to pay property tax.
Other than property taxes, is there any energy tax involved in this based on how many gallons of product you produce or anything?
Quite frankly, I don't know. I know about property tax,
It's 230, 228.
which is something we have to pay, making money or not. And then I guess there's a tax as any company that makes profit. I don't know. There's no tax exemption, I can tell you that. There's in Wisconsin, but not here.
The townships that have wind do get some profit out of that fact that they're producing energy up here. Now, are you gonna be,
Does the state gonna buy the power?
I don't know.
You get credit for
You get what?
From the state?
Yeah.
No.
At this point, there isn't any, is there? No.
I'm not aware of any tax except here in Minnesota. There's a lot of programs on the gas side, for example, with Centerpoint and so forth, but they're not here. We have to deliver everything to Northern Natural Gas Pipeline, and then need to sell it or buy it at the other end somewhere in the world.
One thing that we did, we're a partner in this group called Headwaters Ag Sustainability Partnership, which includes Stern SWCE as a partner, and others, many others. They received a $10 million grant, of which half of it will be used in Monona County, the other half will be used in Stearns County. We determined that, but of that, 10 million, 8 million will be used on top of the financial incentives that we provided, that will be used for dairy farmers. The concept is called this nutrient shed. So it's for infrastructure, for manure handling systems, for infrastructure that would be used for dairy producers that would be, well, you're involved in the nutrient shed project, which means redistribution of nutrients, right? So in other words, if you're a dairy producer, and let's just say have high phos soils, you're not wanting that phosphorus coming back to you, we're bringing back to you nutrient water. The solids, which would have the phosphorus, is going where they're low in phosphorus, so the fields may need. And so, really, the only way that a farmer, you're gonna have to be aligned with a, partnering with a digester company like us, a hub and spoke digester company, in order to really get some of those.
I do too, but some people gotta leave. So,
I'll tell them to stick around, talk if they want, but okay, all right.
All right, dumb question, where is this land?
Just gonna mention one thing. You're welcome to ask questions of these people and get more information, but for right now, we're getting a lot of side conversations and people got things to do. Not that we're not against this proposal. I just think that if we're gonna keep going, I think we need to do it more on a one-on-one. And, you know, if that works for you guys.
Fine with us, yeah.
Yeah, we, stick around, or if you don't want us hanging.
So,
Maybe the last question, this gentleman has been raising his hand a few times.
One question, I'm not a producer, but would be in regards to the energy density of the gas that you're actually putting back into the pipeline. Understanding this is gonna be somewhere around the neighborhood of 90+% net, and you're gonna be paid specifically at rate for the natural gas that will be produced, or I should say,
Yes.
produced from oil fields or from
Yeah.
gas fields or anything else. Understanding, you said between 65 to 75 employees probably that are going to be running the facility.
Well, if you, the amount of services that we use is about 65 jobs, full-year jobs, right?
So I guess what my question is specifically, what is the operation finance ratio between what you're selling back to in the pipeline? Or between 60 and 80 cents a therm probably for natural gas is the going rate if I'm not mistaken. What's the finance ratio of what you get back from the gas to what is put in to actually operate?
Yeah. The gas, let me just answer this way. Gas cannot pay for what we do. The credit does. The credits. That's where the money is. The gas helps a lot, no doubt. I mean, it's a solid income, but the credits are 7-8 times higher than gas. So that's a big chunk. That's where. Otherwise, we couldn't do this. Making renewable natural gas sustainable, as we do here, is a lot more costly than fossil gas. And then we can start discussion about what is right and wrong. I like this renewable gas because it's sustainable. It's local, it gives jobs, and we're cleaning up. Will we, I mean, it's not going to be in our lifetime that we will not have fossil gas, that's for sure. That will continue to be here, no doubt. But we need to keep it a little bit lower if we listen to all the scientific and so on. We need to help Mother Earth here. And one way of doing that is, of course, renewable. And I always say that renewable gas is triple up because now it's sitting out in the field and the methane just goes up and goes and heat up the planet. And now if we take it in, we don't do that, and then we can use it to heat our home or drive our cars or whatever. So, and it's good business. There's a lot of people who gain on this. Win-win.
okay, for as long as for the city council's part, I think we're gonna adjourn our section of it, but you people are more than welcome to stick around and discuss things with the people that are involved in this.
Or do you also want to mention that this is recorded, so it will
And
be
it's
available?
also recorded, so everything's being videotaped, so.
That means you gotta stick to what we said.
So,
All right, thank you very much.
our meeting will be adjourned and you're welcome to stay and answer questions.